Morning. I am a few minutes late, I think, but here we are on Friday for my first attempt at a regular weekly video, Coffee and Cards, Friday morning. So I know it's not necessarily the best time for a lot of people, but hopefully people will tune in later on in their day when you have a chance. So as promised, I had posted this card and I said we were going to make it today because I did a few things that I just wanted to show you that were going to be really hard, or not necessarily hard, but take me a long time to explain. So I did something fun with this piece here. I did a couple of fun things with the snowman. So I just wanted to do those live so you could see what we did. Okay, so we're going to start with that. I'm going to just put that card to the side so we kind of know what we're talking about. So as I had mentioned, this card was inspired by both a sketch from TGIF. They do challenges every week that I like to try to participate in if I can. And then a color challenge from Hand Stamped Sentiments. So that's where the colors came, if you're kind of wondering why. Wow, how did you decide to put Pretty Peacock with Mint Macaron? And then I had to tie in Terracotta Tile, which is one of the new in colors, and Grapefruit Grove. So I tied those into my colors on my scarf and on my hat. I actually really like the mint and the peacock together. I don't know what you guys think. So yeah, I just kind of went from there and then looked at all my DSP. So I chose this piece of DSP, which is from the Brightly Gleaming suite. So that gorgeous paper that has copper foil on a lot of the pages, but we are using the other side this time. And now the sketch showed a rounded corner. So I have a rounded corner punch, which is now retired. But Stampin' Up! Does still sell. They sell a punch that has 3 different corners and one of them is rounded. You don't have to round the corners by any means, but that's sort of what it showed in this sketch. I liked how that looked. Sometimes it's nice to round a corner. It just kind of softens some of the edges of the card. So we will go ahead and do that. So that piece is easy and done. Woohoo! Okay, so I want to show you this next little bit, and this is, I read about this technique. I feel like I read about it on the demonstrator planning place. I can't remember who it was, so I can't give credit to them. But if you can see here, I have an embossed piece of paper, but it also has ink on it. So this is a Whisper White piece of paper you can see on the back. So this embossing folder is the new hammered metal. Okay, so this is what it would look like if you just ran a piece of white paper through. That's the reverse side. This is the sort of side that gives you a bit more of a 3D, and you can see I've got the mint. So what you do to get an effect like this, and what this demonstrator had said is if you used Balmy Blue, she thought that it looked like ice. Like cracked ice. And so I really liked that idea of having the snowman sitting on something that looked kind of like ice, but I couldn't bring Balmy Blue into my card. I needed to keep with my color scheme. So I used the mint, which I actually still think looks, you know, I don't think that looks out of place. But so what you do, I'm just going to show you what you would do. And I'm just going to do it on a scrap piece of paper that I will then use later in some other card somehow. So I'm just going to take a little scrap here. So all you do is take your ink pad and ink up your embossing folder. It doesn't ruin your folder. The folder immediately wipes off, so it's no big deal. So you just take your ink pad, and I'm just going to ink up where I need because I've just got a little piece of paper. So I'm just going to put my little piece of paper down here at the bottom. So all you would do is ink up your pad. And depending which side you want the ink on, we want the ink on this side that's going to go into it. I think I inked up both sides, to be honest, when I did it. No, you don't want to ink up both. So let's just double check what we did here. This would have went in here like this. Yeah, so you're just going to ink. Hey, Marianina. You're going to just ink up your folder. I would have inked up this side because it's in the crevices. So all you do is ink up your folder. So you can see here, this is how we know if we're inking up the right side. This is going to show us the cracks that are inked, but we actually want the other side inked, so we can tell that now. So if we ink up this side, then you see you're going to get that piece inked. So in this case, we're going to do both. Why not? And then we can see the difference. So then you're just going to put your piece of paper in there once you've inked up your folder. And you're just going to run it through your Big Shot like you would. So this is one of the new folders. It's one of the new 3D embossed folders. So that's where this new plate comes in handy. So you use this plate instead of any other plate through your Big Shot. And it really makes a big difference. If you don't have this plate, you can use a shim and your original plate. And I was doing that before I got this plate. But then once I got this plate, it was just sort of a no-brainer to me, and it's like $13, I think, so it's really affordable. So you can see how that works. So now we have that come through in the balmy blue, or there's that side. So it depends what effect you want. But what I would suggest is you need to decide which effect you want to start with, because you don't want to ink up both sides of your folder and then have both sides of your paper if you don't need it to be. And then all you're going to do with this is just wipe it down. So a wet wipe, or just run it under water, or even a paper towel. If I had done a whole big piece of paper, most of the ink would be gone, so you would have very little to actually clean up. That's what I found when I did the mint one, because the piece of paper basically took up the whole folder, so I didn't really have anything to clean up. So I'm just going to give this a quick wipe now with a paper towel, and then when I'm off the screen, I will use a wet wipe, and we'll get the rest of it out of there. Okay, so that is how you do that effect, just so you know. So we already have the mint that we want to use, and we're just going to cut that out with one of our oval dies. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then our other piece here, this is another one of our oval dies in the Pretty Peacock. And what I had done with this, and thankfully I have some left over, is I had run it through with the Subtle Dynamic Textured Impressions embossing folder. So if you don't have this folder, but you have a Big Shot and you like to just add a little bit of texture to your cards, it is a must-have. It's just the folder you need when you need a little bit of something, but not a lot. So I wanted the texture to be running lengthwise. Now you're going to see when I ran this through my folder, I don't have texture up there, but that's okay. I'm going to use this scrap anyway, because that bottom piece is going to be covered by that. Okay, so I'm going to quickly run these through my Big Shot off to the side. I could lift the Big Shot back and forth, but I think if you're familiar with the Big Shot, you don't necessarily need to see me running things through it. So I'm just going to leave it off to the side. I am going to, in a second, bring in the Stamparatus, though. We are going to be using that today in order to make the snowman. So let's quickly run this through the Big Shot. Snap, crackle, pop. So there's that piece. And there is that piece. Okay. Alrighty. So we're good to go with those two pieces. We have, changing the brightness of my light. So we've got that. We're going to put that down there. So perfect. That is good to go. We've got this. I had already pre-cut our card base. So this, of course, is our Pretty Peacock. This is just half of an 8.5 by 11. So 5.5 by 4 1/4. Scored and folded in half. And then we have a piece of mint, which is 4 by 5 1/4. So that's how we always get the card base if you weren't sure of how we do those measurements. Okay, so that is that piece. We've got the DSP already cut. Oh, and I should mention the DSP was 4 by 3 1/2 with the rounded corners. That's going to go up there. And then these are our two ovals that we've done, and then our piece that we did there. So that's going to go on there. Comme ça. Okay. So the next thing we need to do is our snowman. And now we are going to pull out the Stamparatus. Now, if you don't have the Stamparatus, it's not a crisis. You could do it without it. It just makes it easier, because there is the cutest little snowman punch that coordinates with the Snowman Season stamp set, which we're using. Okay, so I wanted to use this punch, And if you have the Stamparatus, it makes it easy because you can create yourself a template, which I did, and you can see I just did that in a piece of scrap paper. And then now I can punch this out in white and stick all the pieces on here and then stamp them perfectly. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. And the beauty is you could use a bunch of scraps if you wanted to, because it doesn't matter if everything is on the same sheet. So I am all about using up my paper as best as I can. So you can see here I'm gonna get everything but the hat. So I'm gonna punch that out. And now I've got the snowman and both his arms. And then I'm gonna spin this around and I'm gonna punch it again and get the hat. There's also the carrot nose here. We don't need that, but that's fine, we'll punch it out. And so now we have the hat, okay? So that is a great way to use up scraps and still use your punch. I don't like to let any paper go to waste, particularly Whisper White, because we use so much of it. Okay, so now we gotta just stick all our little guys into my little template here. But I appear to have lost an arm. That is the one problem, I guess, about doing it this way. So that's fine, we'll punch out another one. Which arm, doesn't matter. I'm gonna punch out 2 more. There we go. All right, and we're gonna stick this guy in here. So like I said, I'd already set up this template and I had already put my stamps on. So when you are using this as a template for a punch, and this is great if you wanted to make a whole bunch of these, I'd be set to go for today. So you put down your template first, and then you put your stamps right into these holes that are cut out, and then they will end up on your plates. Hey, Sandra. Okay, so because I want to do some coloring on these, and I'm never sure if I'm going to color in blends or regular markers, I always stamp my black and my Memento so that it's not an issue, okay? So I'm going to ink up this guy on this side, and then we're going to apply pressure. And often your pieces, oh, there's that other guy, will come right off, so that's fine. And now we are going to ink up our hat and our other arm. Just going to make sure we get the hat good and inky. Okay, and then we are going to bring that down. All right, so those guys stuck in. So we have the hat, we have one little arm, we have our snowman, and we have another little arm. And we are set. All right, so we're gonna put this aside for now, the Stamparatus. I will clean all of that when we are finished. Okay, so let us get to work here on what I did. So the other thing we need to do, because you may or may not be wondering, you're like, well, this guy has no scarf. You're right, he has no scarf. And I needed him to have a scarf in order to meet the color challenge, which involved me stamping just the scarf. So I stamped just the scarf and I fussy cut it. So we're gonna do that again today. And would I normally necessarily do that? Not necessarily, but this is what I needed to do to make this happen. So we're gonna do that and clean that after. Okay, so incomer markers. If I had a mint blends, I would have used that, but there is not. So I used mint, and then like I said, I needed to use terracotta tile and grapefruit, and I used peacock as well. Okay, so what we did here, and to make the nose, because I was really just trying to stick true to the colors, sorry, realize we're off the screen here. I used both of these colors overlapping instead of bringing in an orange. And this just kind of gave us a different tinge. So that was that. And then on the hat, I used some mint for this, the leaves. And I used peacock for this piece of velvet or ribbon, whatever it would have been. And I used terracotta for my berries. Okay, so that is that pieces of the hat. There's the arms. Okay, so then for our scarf, I had to use terracotta and the grapefruit. And I have some of these colors in blends, but not all of them. And because I was just doing straight coloring, I didn't need to use the blends. I could just use the Marvelous markers. And I still love these markers. I still buy them I buy them in all the in colors, and I have them in almost all of the other colors as well. They come in handy for coloring. They come in handy for when you want just one color on a stamp. The hat. So the hat I didn't want it in black, so I actually did it in basic gray instead of black, just so that it wasn't too dark. And then the only difference with these markers is you will see your brush lines, for lack of a better word. So you just kind of want to make sure you're fairly smooth with your coloring and that you're going in one direction, because if you start going in a different direction, then you're going to see that. All right, so there's our hat. Okay, now we have to fussy cut out our scarf. It's really not as bad as it seems. There are, of course, those cute felt embellishments that I would have used had I not been sticking with the color challenge. And I thought about using them today, but then the scarf is actually a different shape. And so I didn't really love what that was doing for the card that I'd already created. So I stuck with the fussy cutting. Additionally, one of my customers had said that those embellishments were back ordered. I apologize, I didn't actually check that back order this morning before I came on here. So I didn't want to show something that was going to be like, yay, those are so cute, and then you can't actually get them right now. Also, I really liked this color scheme after it was one that I would have never put together. So I kind of just wanted to stick with that. All right, so see, pretty quick to cut out that scarf. So if you couldn't get the embellishments, or you're like, I gotta be choosy about which things my stamping money is going to, you don't really need it. All right, so we have got all the elements here except for our sentiment. So our sentiment came from this one, Itty Bitty Christmas. So this is another new one in the catalog. Sorry, just having a drink of coffee. And I chose, where is it? Christmas cheer. There it is. Blend it in. So these are the new stamps that you put the labels on. And they are amazing for sticking to our blocks. And I'm going to be putting it on a bigger block than necessary right now, only because, hey Kelly, I had a class yesterday, a bit of a fundraiser, and so I just haven't had a chance to unpack all those things. So what I already have here is a strip of mint, and it is a tiny bit thicker than this one, but it is roughly the size that we need it to be to fit through this punch, and that's because I used this punch to get that end. Okay, a lot of it is going to go behind our snowman, so it doesn't really matter, but what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to punch this to start. So by punching just this end, I get that nice little flagged or banner, whatever we want to call it, end, without doing it with scissors. So I'm always looking for shortcuts. Okay, so that is that piece, and then I stamped this in the peacock. So we will ink that up, and then we're going to put it about there. Now, you can see it is not at all centered. So we're going to try that again. So you want to look at your stamp, and you can see I have way more, or I have more blank at the bottom than I do at the top. And so, you know, it's not an exact science when they make these. So sometimes that will happen. So it pays to look at the back of your stamp, and then you can adjust your placement on the paper. All right, so there we have it. Now we're just going to put all this together. So we're going to build our snowman and put the rest of the card together. So the only other thing that I did that I haven't done here is I did a bit of shading. So you'll see this in the catalog on a lot of these images where they've kind of just added a bit of shading to the snowman. It is really nice when you do it with the blends. They just sort of add a bit of a lighter effect. We don't have mint with the blends. We have soft seafoam, or we have pool party. So I could do that with soft seafoam instead of the mint to be able to use the blends. But you know what? I just used the marker. I didn't think it looked terrible. And you just kind of want to round out. So I just kind of went along, and then I kind of went thicker to thin. And then same here, I kind of went along there, and then thicker to thin. All right, so that is all we did there. Okay, so we've taken this oval that we'd run through the embossing folder, and all I did is put this at the bottom and centered it. I'm gonna put that on. There's always one side of your paper that will look a bit more embossed. So we're going to take a bit of our snail, and I'm actually just going to put it along the bottom of this. Sometimes you will find that an embossed piece doesn't really stick as well with your snail, and that is true, especially if you were trying to put it on this side. So what you want to use, because we no longer have fast fuse, is the tear tape. The tear tape is excellent for that, or even glue dots. The other thing that I just learned with snail when I was at the retreat is it doesn't always necessarily work nicely on paper that has foil or the foil paper itself. So sometimes using snail on that can be a bit of a pain. Okay, so what I did here, I put everything down flat, and then I popped up this circle. So we need to put our arms on our snowman first. As well, the scarf we could put on last, but we will do the arms and the scarf. So we're going to get out our silicone sheet. Silicone sheet is your best friend because it does not get sticky stuff on your paper or your scrap paper that you're using. So I'm going to put some snail on my scarf, and then it doesn't matter that my snail goes off because it goes on the silicone, which it does not stick to. All right, so then we're going to put the scarf on this guy. Make him look all happy and cute. And we're going to put his hat. So I'm just going to put snail along the bottom of his hat because that's the part that's going to be on his head. And then we're going to do his arms. So again, I've got them coming out of here, so I'm just going to put some snail on there for now and do his arms, and then we are going to snail the whole guy. So we just kind of want a jaunty little angle here that we like. And then I know when I made this card, I kind of made sure that his arms looked all right once I put him on there, so I'm actually want this arm a little bit higher. Okay, perfect. All right, so we're happy with that. So now we're going to add some snail to these other bits so that it's just going to stick. I think I probably put a tiny bit on the ends of each of his little stick. And so when you do it this way, you might end up with snail that you can see. So you just use anything, pencil, poker, to kind of stick it back in. All right, and then we are going to put this guy on here. Comme ça. All right, so there we go. There's our snowman. All right, so that piece is done. We want to put this on the back of here as well. So, you know, nothing ever has to be the same as it was the first time. I'm going to put some snail across here. And then we're going to line that up. Comme ça. We're going to cut that off so we don't need it. This bit is going to go on with dimensionals, which I made sure I had handy. And some mini dimensionals. So like that, and then we will put one sort of right at the edge there. On ovals, I usually, wow, there's some good English. I think I typically put 4, and I might put another one here. I don't like a dead spot. Okay, so that is that. And then we're going to do these pieces. So we're going to put this card together, and then you will see, we'll add those fun little sequins and snowflakes and be done with it. I always love it when I recreate these cards, because this card probably took me like, you know, an hour or 2 to actually figure out and get what I liked. And then, you know, you can just recreate it in 20 minutes or 30 minutes as the case may be. Okay, let's not put that on upside down. That would be upsetting. Center that. All right, and then put this on. So what you can see, if you can, so I've used some pretty peacock sequins, and I have also used the cute little, those are the snowflake assorted sequins. So within the snowflakes, there are some cute little stars. So I used those. And I'm not going to lie, I used my fine tip glue pen, which I don't do all that frequently. So this guy. All right, put him on here. Voila. Okay, so into the final moments. We need those, and we need those. And we need our fine tip glue pen. Now, if you don't have a fine tip glue pen, you could use glue dots. The reason I did not use glue dots is they are a little too big for these small sequins, and they're definitely too big for these stars. I could have used it for this bigger sequin, but since I had my fine tip glue pen out, I didn't bother. So the fine tip glue pen, you just unscrew it and then take that needle out, okay? It is clear. And then the other thing we're going to use is our take a pick tool. So I like to just keep mine not put together, which might seem weird, but I was finding when I had it all put together that this end kept getting wound up and then it was getting wasted. So this has got that putty at the end, which helps us to pick up our sequins, and then you can wind it up to get more. So you can see, you can see one of my guys got stuck in there from before. So we want 2 stars. So there is 1 star. So you can see how easily I could pick that up, okay? And I'm just gonna put a drop of glue on here, which you won't be able to see. And then I am going to place this star down. And then here is where I generally bring out the other end of this tool just to place it and apply a little bit of pressure. And this glue will dry clear. We're gonna put another bit of glue here. Oh, we got a goober. a big bubble. Okay, and now we need a second star. What I found with these stars, so if you buy, and that's what's happening here, there's a whole bunch of them stuck together. So you kind of got to separate them. Otherwise you end up with more than one on your project. And in this case, on my finger. Static, right? Sticky. Ah! Oh, of course, and then I lost the one. Here it is. All right, so here's our other star. Boom. Okay, so there's that piece. We're gonna put those away, hey Amy, so we don't knock them over. And then, oh look, we have one of the ones we need right there. We want, this is from the woven threads. That's where we're getting the peacock ones from. So we're gonna put again a little bit of glue. Gonna pick up that sequin. Put it down. And it will generally drop once it hits the adhesive. Okay, and then we want a bigger sequin. And just making sure this is the right size. Yep, although really, it doesn't matter. Card doesn't have to be exactly the same. So again, we're gonna put a bit of the glue and our sequin. And then we need one more of the small ones. So we'll get that. Again, a bit of our glue. And the sequin. So I think I actually picked up 3 different sizes there, but that is okay. All right, so there we have it. We have recreated that card. Is the fine tip glue pen more like clear Tombow? Honestly, Marianina, I don't know. Maybe, as long as you could get a fine tip. I have that aqua. Are you talking about the aqua Tombow? This one, aqua. I don't think this tip would be fine enough. Maybe though. Yeah, you could probably try it. Okay. All right, ladies, thank you for joining me. As I mentioned, I'm going to try to have this be a regular thing, Friday mornings, 9:15. I will always post the time, but I will try to have it be at this time, sort of right after school drop-off, unless I've got an appointment or some running around that I have to do right at drop-off time, all right? So hopefully you have a fabulous day, and enjoy your weekend. Thanks for joining me, guys.